or similar importance as other sustainability issues. For example, 59% of the respondents believe that sustainable fish means that farmed fish was kept in conditions that allow for natural behaviors, which is a similar percentage as those who believe that sustainable fish means that the species is currently not overfished. Here is a welfare issue, so peripheral that it's rarely considered, and the public think it is already included in guarantees to the same extent as overfishing. We were really taken aback by this result. Another example, 44% of the consumers think that sustainability means that fish was killed quickly and painlessly, which is more than 37% of the EU consumers who believe that employees have good working conditions as part of sustainability claims. Now, turning to what consumers believe sustainability should be.
1.5 minutes?
Yes. On top of the list, 70% is that fish farm conditions should allow for natural behavior. And this is more important, as you can see here, than any other aspect of sustainability, like bycatch, overfishing, or social aspects. And also, the killing, the humane killing process is very important in this list. So sustainable agriculture has been explored and discussed in many fora, but on how many occasions have these welfare aspects been in the discussion? And are consumers getting what they think they are getting? In any case, these results present an incredible societal support to better protect fish and incorporate their welfare in sustainability schemes. And Hugo for Animals believes that these results should be a wake-up call for policymakers, politicians, and the corporate sector to take fish welfare more seriously. And the good news is that there are lots of opportunities to take action for fish and to better incorporate existing science, best practices, and evidence on fish welfare needs, and incorporate all this knowledge into existing policies and sustainability schemes. And I would like to leave you with 4 calls for action. Firstly, immediately and effective studying and reduced stress handling prior to slaughter needs to be adopted by the whole sector, because the technology is there, the economics work, and the product quality improves. Second, water quality monitoring and contingency planning during transport need to be standardized and regulated. Then thirdly, best practices for handling of fish at different stages of production need to be standardized. And as was already said, very important, we need more research into the housing and behavioral needs of specific species. And then last but not least, as agriculture is still a largely young sector relative to other livestock farming sectors, we believe that the trend should be in the direction of high quality over quantity, high welfare and low environmental impacts in line with citizens and consumers' expectations. I think that agriculture should avoid the process the other livestock sectors have followed. We can learn from those mistakes. We can learn also from the big downside of intensive systems. And it means that we should encourage the trends towards systems that meet the species-specific welfare needs and behavioral preferences of fish. And then lastly, very brief, I would like to point your attention to this report, which is also launched today, Looking Beneath the Surface, Fish Welfare in European Agriculture, which presents a state of play on European agriculture for fish, and also presents our views on the future of this sector and the sentience and welfare of fish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Radhika. Looking forward to getting into that report later. 2 more speakers before we move on to the discussion. I'm going to hand over to my left to Bernhard Penies. He's the Vice President of the Federation of European Aquaculture Producers, FEAP. And he's also the President of the German Aquaculture Association. And he's going to be discussing why welfare is important to fish farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I heard so beautiful presentations, though I changed a bit my presentation because it's not necessary to say arguments twice. So I will focus on a bit different topic. Talking about animal welfare, we need to define what it is and why we should take it into account at all. And in this context, we have to talk about dignity. And you might be astonished that the producer, the farmer, is talking about dignity in fish. But we are the ones who are talking about fish, all kinds of transporting, slaughtering with everybody, with the consumers, with the lawmakers, and with the scientists. So it is us to know what dignity in terms of fish means. How about animals? In many constitutions, the animals are recognized to have their own dignity. So how can we justify to keep animals under special conditions? How can we justify to slaughter fish? The crucial point is, it is not the question how much we are allowed to affect the dignity. The question must be, is the impact to the dignity of the animal justifiable? Otherwise, you would have a quantitative impact to the dignity, but this is wrong. It must be a yes or a no. And the basis for the decision is made by evaluating the action. The state of play in terms of public opinion is at the moment we have extreme endpoints, polarized opinions, unfounded facts, anthropomorphic interpretation, and very emotional interpretation, and miscredited conclusions. This is the starting situation for us in the decisions always. The possible fields of conflict in aquaculture is, and I take only a few out of them, rearing the fish to the marketable size. The animals often also reach the sexual maturity, combined with ranking fights between males and reduction of food intake and a growing vulnerability. Is that a justifiable impact to the dignity? Transport, next impact, since necessary, how can we organize it to carry out transporting without losses? A criteria for well-being, of course, but not the only one. Slaughtering. The highest impact to the life of a creature is the death. But even this can be justified in a process of reflection and discussion. We have to respect the big differences between fish species, and one good method cannot automatically transfer to other species. Therapy and prophylaxis, since we do not talk about wild animals, they are in our hand, and we are responsible for their well-being. It is us to provide structured plans of prophylaxis and, if necessary, therapy. These animals in fish farms, however they may look like, depend on us, how they are protected against predators. And Doug, could you show us the slide with the, this one. These animals has to be protected by us. It is against predators, and it is unbearable not to close this gap and leave these unprotected against predators because they may be, for some reason, often historically, on the red list. An unbearable situation. Pond farming is the water version of grazing animals, and so it's us who is responsible for that. The fields, thank you, the next one please. This could be also stress, but is it, of course it is justifiable. The fields where we have to be active is the knowledge of behavior in different stages has to be improved regarding that in production sites a high stocking density can be appropriate since the fish can adopt and change from the individualist to an intensive farm animal, but not every species and not every stage. Research is needed. Health, all kinds of veterinary and scientific support we can achieve is needed. And as a criteria, the definition of stress. Measuring cortisol either in blood or in the water is very problematic for interpretation. It is an individual answer to the survival instinct. That means it is normal. And we have, on the second point, we have to distinguish between chronic stress and acute stress. And this can also not really be distinguished. With a minimum of consensus. The problem is, since reputable publications are interpreting scientific results even controversially, we need at least a bottom line among the researchers with a minimum of consensus based on results and not influenced by ideology. What is the conclusion of this meeting? There is a lot of scientific knowledge for this meeting. There is a lot of scientific knowledge in different member states, but also in fish farms, where the work is done effectively, sometimes for generations already. Collect it and make an updated summary before asking for research money. Research projects often are run for 4 to 5 years, and in the last year the researchers are looking in their own interest for the next project, and nobody is left to spread the results to those the work was meant for. There's a lot of legislation on different levels, not everything is nonsense. Let us sum up these existing regulations and look what could be transferred to EU level. In these different areas, not member states, different solutions may make some sense. Adjust the regulations to where and what. We all have to keep in our mind is dignity of animals and humans, of course, is not divisible. You can do the same action one time, it is not justifiable, and you disregard the creator, and in the other case it is justifiable. Dignity of the animals is taken into account by harm-benefit analysis, or in other words, balancing interests. Picture 7, please. Thank you. Why is fish welfare important to fish farmers? Healthy fish means the best quality for the consumer. Good animal welfare in fish produces more equal size and on-growing units. Means a broodstock producing long-term quality, and good animal welfare means also prophylaxis instead of therapy. Adjusted stocking density in any on-growing stage means robust health, not endangered by any small insult. We use already very small amount of antibiotics in aquaculture, especially compared to other farmed animals. But as a business evaluating itself as a highly sustainable production, any kilo antibiotic you do not need is a success. The problem in the discussion is the argument you have to use depends on the people you talk to, or better talk to you. The consumer wants a fish in best quality swimming in a stocking density like in the wild. And the scientists and the lawmakers want criteria to be tested in a lab. All we really have to keep in our mind is dignity of animals should be always in our mind. And if we talk about animal welfare in terms of aquaculture, it has to be clear there is no contradiction between the interest of the fish farmer and the welfare of the fish. From rearing the fry over on-growing till transport and slaughtering, we always have the best results in terms of economic and quality, as long as we ensure the highest level of animal welfare and vice versa. Thank you very much. But the last 2 slides, please.
Just stop me when I'm at the slide.
Yeah. That was the last one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bernhard. I'm sure there's, to make upon, I'm afraid, lots of food for thought there in future discussion. Our final speaker is Melanie Six, who has kindly stepped in to replace Michiel Franze from the Aquaculture Stewardship Council, who sends his apologies for not being able to make it today. So Melanie is the Director of Strategic Engagements at the Global Aquaculture Alliance, a non-profit trade association dedicated to advancing environmentally and socially responsible aquaculture. She's going to be talking about what the Aquaculture Alliance does for fish welfare and how certifiers are advancing it. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us to participate today. I haven't got PowerPoint, which will be a joy to some of you, but what it does mean is that I know that we want to get through this fast, and so I'm going to be reading fast, so try and keep up, guys, okay? Quick little bit about Global Aquaculture Alliance, a US-based organisation that was founded about 20 years ago, and it's dedicated to pre-competitive activities around responsible aquaculture. So things like advocacy and education and leadership. It has things like the GAA films, an academy and community, and an annual conference, and the reason I mention those will become clear later. But the general premise of GAA is around collaboration for finding solutions for different things. That might be around disease, and it might be around feed, and in this case it's around the business of welfare. Couple of points that I wanted to make en route on this brief presentation is one voice that's not directly represented, but I know will be by some of you sort of third hand within the room, is the people who are selling this fish, the retailers and the restaurateurs and so on. And I wanted to make the point because twofold. One is that they know that not only is animal welfare